I start reading? No.
Yes.
You said we have to read it, huh?
Yes, we have to read.
Yes. Okay, so just 1 second. But still, we have to read it. So we have to read it means, Sunki, you can start reading, or Archana, if she has the text, she can also start.
Yes, Rangada, I'll start because we are only
Okay.
3 days. I think all of us will get a chance to read.
Yeah, that's right. So you start.
But still, apart from the possibility, there is the question of the actual divine working. Whether actually the divine consciousness does appear coming forward from beyond the veil to act at all directly in the phenomenal, the finite, the mental and material, the limited, the imperfect. The finite is indeed nothing but a definition, a face value of the infinite self representations to its own variations of consciousness. The real value of each finite phenomenon is an infinite in its self existence, whatever it may be in the action of its phenomenal nature, its temporal self representation. The man is not, when we look closely, himself alone, a rigidly separate self existent individual, but humanity in a mind and body of itself. And humanity too is no rigidly separate self existent species or genus. It is the all existence, the universal Godhead, figuring itself in the type of humanity. There it works out certain possibilities, develops, evolves, as we now say, certain powers of its manifestations. What it evolves is itself, is the spirit.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting para. So if you remember, the chapter is the possibility and purpose of avatarhood. There are many who say impossible. There is no question of man becoming divine. But in the Indian context, you remember the Advaita philosophy, everything is divine. Even the matter is divine. So the question of the human being becoming a divine consciousness is not only possible, but it is definitely a fact. Now he is discussing another thing in this para. He's saying, okay, admitted that the human being can be divine. That's the avatar. The avatar who comes down, there into a human body and a human mind, life, and body, it comes down and it's a divine consciousness. Now the question is, if that is so, he is a human being after all. And if he is a human being, how effective is his divinity in the physical world? Does it get reduced? Does it have enough power to do what the work it wants to do? Or is it reduced? That's what he's asking. Okay? And then he says that remember one thing, that the finite and the infinite are linked. There is a connection between the two. It is not that there is no connection at all. If there is no connection, then this question would be a valid one. Whether the divine can enter into a body and still have that power. So that's what he's answering here in this small paragraph. So keep this in mind and then we'll see. There's a link. For instance, we are human beings with a body, mind, life. Now, we have certain powers. The body has certain power, the vital has certain power, the mind has certain power. But where is the power of the soul? It is there inside and it is slowly developing. We may not be. So the question is, unless we know the soul power is not effective. The soul power, the psychic being is there inside, trying to guide you, but the human part of you, the imperfect human part of you, is obstructing that instructions and the influence. It is obstructing. So there is an evolution. And when you are conscious of your soul, the soul power becomes quite effective in the body, mind, and life. Quite effective because there also there is a gradation. The more you climb upwards, the more the soul power can have an effect on the physical, the vital, and the mind. So this is the question that is answering. Okay, keep this in mind.
Rangada,
Yeah, tell me.
Rangada, one question. The power of the soul, of an individual soul, is effective only on the person himself, no? It doesn't have effect on the outside nature or anything.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. But if that soul is now a divine soul, okay, it's an individual soul. Very interesting question you have raised. It's an individual soul. When you are a yogi, what you're saying is absolutely right. Your soul has got a certain power on your own body, mind, life. But as you rise in consciousness, remember the two words, Swarat and Samrat. You remember that?
Yes,
So,
yes.
Swarat, when you are realize your soul, you can become master of yourself. But as you rise in consciousness, this power starts effective, becoming effective even in the world. You become Samrat. So that is exactly the avatar. So even avatar is there, he can change
So
things even in the physical world. So he
that
can
is
help.
when we are that
Yeah,
is when we are in contact with the consciousness, supreme consciousness, no?
that's right. But we are not normally, we are in the ours. When we means who? Your soul is in
Soul,
contact.
yes, yes.
Yeah, the soul is in contact with the supreme soul, but partially. At the lowest level, in level 1, you are not in contact. Okay, your soul is not in
Yes.
contact with the divine. Only essentially it is divine. When you go to level 2, spiritual planes, your contact with the divine increases. But when you go to the third level, okay, I'm only talking of 3 levels, but there is a gradation between them. So when you go to the third level, the contact with the divine becomes full, and then you have power. You can act in the physical world fully. So that is the avatar. The avatar is he, into his even body mind life, the divine descends with full force. Okay. But there is also, he has himself, divine has himself created the limitations in level 1. So there is certainly a limitation of the power. What the divine can do at his own level, at the highest level, transcendent with the cosmos, certainly it cannot be, even the avatar's power is limited in that sense, because it's in a human body. Okay? Can the avatar, for instance, create a universe? So that is there only at that highest level, that power is full. As you keep coming down, remember that the avatar has got a human part, and the human part is limitation. So, but even that limitation is, it does not affect the other men. It is 10 times or 20 times more than the normal man's. So he has a power which normal man doesn't have. And he has enough power even to change things in the physical world. Remember those intervention in Turkey, in Ireland, even in the Second World War, even in Russia, he was going on experimenting and seeing how effective the power is. Okay, it began in a very small way, if you remember. Okay, he was experimenting on animals first, birds and things like that. Then finally he could even change events in the physical world. Okay, that is what meant by full power. So an avatar's power is far, far superior to a normal man, but it gets conditioned by the body mind life. So your question is a very valid one, but remember the gradation. How much is the contact between your individual soul and the divine soul? And remember also that the many philosophies say, once you are in contact with the divine soul, don't worry about the lower. Just give it up. Not necessary. Because there the power is very, very limited. But Sridhar is saying, no, there'll be an evolution, and that power will go on increasing. So we are not going to run away from the world. We will remain in the world and see that the evolution goes to the next steps. And what is that evolution? The evolution is the power of the yoga, of the yogi, will increase with the coming of the next race. Okay? The next race, it will be, the power will increase. The power of a superman will be far superior to the power of a yogi. And the power of a normal man, does he have power? Of course he has power. Body has got power. And the power to act is a power. The very fact that I am walking is power, energy. So there is an energy in the body, there is an energy in the vital, there is an energy in the mind, but very limited. When you go to level 2, these powers increase. When you go to level 3, they become almost total. So with that consciousness, if you come down to a body-mind life, you are the avatar. Okay, so now we go back to the small para. But still, apart from the possibility, okay, there is a question of the actual divine working. How far is it effective? That's what he's asking. Whether actually the divine consciousness does appear coming forward from behind the veil to act at all directly, where? In the phenomenal, the finite, the mental, the material, the limited, the imperfect. How effective is the avatar's power in the physical world? That's what he's asking. Okay. The finite is indeed nothing but a definition, a face value of the infinite self-representations to its own variations of consciousness. Remember, he's saying that the finite is a symbol of the divine. It's a photograph of the divine. It's not the divine itself, it's a photograph. Remember, again, you go back to the idea of the mother symbol on the ring, and it will lead you to mother. So it's a symbol of the mother. It's a limitation. Is mother's consciousness there in the symbol? Yes, but you have to be receptive to it. It is at a very, very low level. It's hiding in the symbol, but you have to be receptive to it. Okay? So this is what Sri is saying. The finite is indeed, he's confirming that the finite is very limited. The finite is indeed nothing but a definition, a face value of the infinite's self-representations. Self-representations, images. Okay? A photograph is a self-representation of the real person. Okay? To its own variations of consciousness. The real value of each finite phenomenon is an infinite in its self-existence. What he's saying is, the real value of a human being is the soul, which you don't see. It is there inside. Okay? So, whatever it may be in the action of the phenomenal nature. The real power of the image is in the essence, not in the outer form. Okay? It's temporal self-representation. The man is not, when we look closely, himself alone, a rigidly separate, self-existent individual, but humanity in a mind and body of itself. So he's now telling you that man is he really separate? Like we think of the ego? No, he is not separate. He is part of the whole. So just again, go back to the image of the sea and the wave. Okay? The wave may think that I am something quite separate from the sea, but actually he is not. It is the sea that is guiding him. So if the sea is influencing him, can the divine not act also in the physical world? But the limitation. The power of the sea gets reduced in the power of the wave. Okay? So that's what is there. Still, it's a divine power only acting. And if you are in contact with that power, your power, even in a body-mind life, will be quite considerable. That's what Swami is saying here. The man is not, when we look closely, himself alone. He is not something separate from the universe. A rigidly separate self-existent individual, he is not. But humanity, he is a whole of humanity in a mind and a body of itself. And humanity too is no rigidly separate self-existent species or genus. Okay? It's an all existence. Everything is connected. The finite and the infinite are connected. The universal Godhead, figuring himself in the type of humanity, there it works out certain possibilities. The full divine power is not there in the avatar, okay? But it is far superior and it can work out many possibilities. Whatever is required in the world at that time, the avatar can do. Okay? Develops, evolves, as we now say, certain powers of its manifestation. For instance, take very clearly, Sri Aurobindo, the avatars, his possibility of bringing the superman down was a work entrusted to him, and he could do it. You and I couldn't have done it. Therefore, the action of the avatar is very necessary. what it evolves is itself, is spirit. Okay? So it is spirit evolving itself in the lower planes, slowly, slowly revealing its reality. So I think it's clear, huh? Again, the idea of gradation is so important. If you remember that there is a gradation from the highest to the lowest, is the power of the divine to manifest in the lower, but covering himself up with many, many layers. But the divine is there in the physical world. So if those layers become unimportant, then you are in touch with the divine power. Still at the lower level, there are limitations. So but that limitation acts less in the avatar than the normal man. That's the answer he is given. Okay? And it is enough to take and complete the work that the avatar has to do in the physical world. So he says, for instance, Rama, his work was to establish the moral rule. Krishna's, the avatar, was his function of the spiritual plane of consciousness, the overmind. And now Srirendo is supposed to be the Kalki. It's very interesting, no? The Kalki is the one who is, if you remember, he comes on a white horse and he is lame. Now, if you remember, the Srirendo also had an accident in his leg. Okay? It's so clear, the symbol, that he is Kalki, the last avatar. Because after that, the Superman will come and the Superman himself will be the avatar. So actually, Srirendo is the last avatar. Even in our avatar concept, okay, Kalki is the last avatar. There's no more after that. Because everyone can become avatars. Okay? So it's very interesting what he's saying. Now we can read the next one. Okay?
Rangana, one
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
In my edition, the sentence which is the real value of each finite phenomenon is an infinite value, is indeed the very infinite.
Yeah.
That is added in, I think yours and Archana's, there isn't.
Oh, acha. I will have to
I
check.
don't know.
Acha, now tell me the sentence again carefully.
The real value of each finite phenomenon
Okay.
is an infinite value, is
Acha.
indeed the very infinite. Infinite with I capital.
Yeah. The real value of each finite, huh? Okay,
Yes.
I'll check it. I'm using the SABCL. Acha, so read that. The real value of each finite
phenomenon is an infinite value, is indeed the very infinite.
Oh, so there is an extra text there.
Extra phrase there.
Yeah. Acha, I'll check and add it in my book. Okay. So when they verify the manuscript, okay, then they find that Srirendo may have made a correction. Or also sometimes in the printed book, Srirendo used to make corrections in the printed book. And he's not sending it to the press now, because he says press only manuscripts are sent. So when he makes a correction in his book, it lies in his room only. That's what happened. For synthesis, many things like that. Okay. Pallu, thank you for telling me. I'll see that and add it in my book. Okay. The real value of each finite phenomenon is an infinite, and after that there is an addition.
Is an infinite value, is indeed the very infinite. Infinite, the last infinite is with I capital.
So that is added. So it is not there in my book. You are right. Okay. It is now 21. We have got 20 minutes. Let's read the next one. It's a big one. So, Pallu, you'll like to read?
No, Sunki will read, Rangada.
Okay. Sunki will read.
Yes, I will read.
Yeah, go ahead.
For what we mean by spirit is a self-existent being with an infinite power of consciousness and unconditioned delight in its being. It is either that or nothing, or at least nothing which has anything to do with man and the world, or with which, therefore, man or the world has nothing to do. Matter, body, is only a massed motion of a force of a conscious being employed as a starting point for the variable relations of consciousness working through its power of sense. Nor is matter anywhere really void of consciousness, for even in the atom, the cell there is, as is now made abundantly clear, in spite of itself by modern science, a power of will, an intelligence at work. But that power is the power of will and intelligence of the self, spirit, or Godhead within it. It is not the separate, self-derived will or idea of the mechanical cell or atom. This universal will and intelligence involved develops its power from form to form, and on earth, at least it is in man, that it draws nearest to the full divine, and there first becomes, even in the outward intelligence in the form, obscurely conscious of its divinity. But still, there too there is a limitation. There is that imperfection of the manifestation which prevents the lower forms from having the self-knowledge of their identity with the divine. For in each limited being, the limitation of the phenomenal action is accompanied by a limitation also of the phenomenal consciousness, which defines the nature of the being and makes the inner difference between creature and creature. The divine works behind indeed and governs its special manifestation through its outer and imperfect consciousness and will, but is itself secret in the cavern Guhayam, as the Veda puts it, or as the Gita expresses it, in the heart of all existences, the Lord abides, turning all existences as if mounted on a machine by Maya. The secret working of the Lord, hidden in the heart, from the egoistic nature consciousness through which he works, is God's universal method with creatures. Why then should we suppose that in any form he comes forward into the frontal, the phenomenal consciousness, for a more direct and consciously divine action? Obviously, if at all, than to break the veil between himself and humanity, which man limited in his own nature could never lift.
Big para, but this is exactly what we were discussing and what I told you, that there is a gradation and the divine is working and his divine is there everywhere. But at the lower level, he is hidden and he has himself reduced his own power because he is playing a game with himself. Okay, at the highest level, he is openly, all his power and all his glory and all his knowledge, everything is there, consciousness. But when he plunges himself down into the manifestation, there is a reduction. Yet his presence is very much there. Okay. He's essentially the presence is there, and because it's a divine presence, there is an evolution. The divine presence, when imprisoned, slowly is struggling. But note interestingly that this is not a game, okay? It's not a pretense, okay? Nirvana had written to Srirando, you are an avatar, so it's easy for you to do yoga, but for us, we are not, and we are very difficult. So Srirando says what you're saying is nonsense. When the divine limits himself, he doesn't do it as a pretense. He really creates that difficulty. Okay? And then he has to conquer it because he is the divine. But that conquest is not easy. He himself has made the difficulties maximum. So even the avatar has to struggle. He has to show the world how to do it. It's not a pretense. That's the whole thing. It's a real struggle. And it is so real that even for life to come out of matter, it took millions and millions of years. So difficult is the task. Okay, that's exactly what he's saying here in the para. Okay, so now remember one thing. Highest level, light is full, divine is full. It's all his powers. Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda. But as it keeps coming down, because he wants to manifest himself, he reduces. And the reduction also is necessary condition, because manifestation is form and form is limitation. So it's not that he is reducing himself purposely. It's a law. When you want to manifest, it becomes obvious that you have to, there is a limitation. Okay. Exactly like, as I said, if you've got a huge lump of clay, okay, huge, infinite clay, the possibility of pots and pans is there, but you don't see it. So if you want to manifest the possibility and make a pot or a cup or a plate, okay, out of that mud, you have to take a little bit of mud and give it a form. So that's limitation. Exactly in the same way, when the divine wants to manifest himself, he has to limit himself. He limits himself. It's a natural consequence. Okay. So naturally, the divine presence is there in the physical world, but very much veiled, very much hidden. Okay. So if you keep that in mind, many questions get answered very easily. Now, I read each sentence. We have got time. For what we mean by spirit is self-existent being with an infinite power of consciousness. Okay? So this is spirit at the highest level. You can use the word God if you want, but God, if you say, you get the image immediately of a human being who has got a lot of power. But spirit is something impersonal. Okay, so that human idea, the anthropomorphic idea goes away. So that's where spirit. And what is that? Who has created the spirit? Himself. He has created himself. Swayambhu is self-existent being with an infinite power of consciousness. Okay? An unconditioned delight in its being. So unconditioned, no conditions at all. In other words, infinite. A condition comes when there is finiteness, a limitation. But there is no limitation at all. No conditions are put on the delight. It is full. It is either that or nothing, or at least nothing which has anything to do with man and the world, or with which, therefore, man or the world has anything to do. So, a little complex language. Okay. So he's saying God is absolute power, absolute consciousness, absolute delight. It is either that or nothing at all. Okay. If someone wants to object, he is saying this because of the objection. Okay. It is either that infinite, and that infinite also is featureless. Remember that. Oh, that's why it is nothing. Or at least nothing which has anything to do with man or the world, or with which therefore man or the world has anything to do. In other words, the avatar route is not possible if there is no connection between the higher and the lower. And that's exactly what the Buddhists say, that's what the Mayavadis say. There is no connection. So leave the lower and go to the higher. But they're saying there's very much connection is there. Okay. Matter, body is only a mass motion of force of conscious being employed as a starting point for the variable relations of consciousness working through its power of sense. Okay. So don't think that matter is only inert substance. It is not. There's consciousness in it. Okay. And he'll give some very interesting examples. Body is only a mass motion of force. It's a concentrated force is there and it has condensed itself. It has condensed itself. Or of conscious being. So, mass motion of force, Shakti, consciousness, Chit, being, substance. So, it is Satchidananda which is coming down to the physical world and becoming matter as a starting point for the variable relations of consciousness working through its power of sense. Okay? Variable relations of consciousness, different consciousnesses at different levels. Nor is matter anywhere really void of consciousness. Very interesting example he is giving. And for even in the atom, the cell, there is, as is now made abundantly clear, in spite of itself, by modern science, a power of will and intelligence at work. Now, let's understand what he's saying here. He's saying that even matter is not dead, it is alive. It's alive with a consciousness and a power. Now, if that power is not there, tell me, can mud produce a lotus? What a power! You and I can't do that. But out of this mud, okay, plants are coming out. So it is, there is consciousness and force in matter. Okay, that's what Sharma is saying. Okay, you may think that there is nothing, but it is very much there. Okay, for even in the atom, the cell, there is, as is now made abundantly clear in spite of itself by modern science, a power of will and intelligence at work. Now, this is a very interesting thing, and I'll make a slight detour if you want. Okay, what science is really saying that. So, on the one hand, we feel that there is no freedom at all in matter. Okay, no freedom at all. It's absolutely inert and subject to laws. Okay, they're absolutely determined. That's why the science of physics is possible. I can forecast a eclipse 100 years from now. Why? Because it's very, very fixed. There's no variation. But is that true? That's the question. Okay. Now, when you go down to the atomic level, okay, you find something very interesting. Okay, very, very interesting. So let us take an atom. Okay, let's take an atom. Let's take the atom of, let's say, oxygen. I'm not sure of what I'm saying, but the principle of what I'm saying is right. Okay, so there's a nucleus, and around the nucleus there are electrons whirling around. Let's say 8 electrons. Okay, now can you say that this is absolutely fixed and there can be no variation? They have found very interestingly that even in these, the electron, there is a possibility of a will and a capriciousness. One electron can come away, but another will immediately replace it. There is the uncertainty principle, okay, which was discovered with the quantum theory. They found that you cannot, there's an element of freedom there also. In other words, if you go down to the atom, the particle that is moving, you can plot its position. Okay, you know what is the position, no? X, Y, Z. I can immediately, I can say, this person is in Pondicherry in his room, or he is in knowledge. I am being able to plot the position very carefully. But what they saw in science is that if you know the position of the particle, you don't know its velocity. And if you fix the velocity, you don't know its position. In other words, there is no rigid principle of determinism, and absolute non-freedom, bondage is not there at the atomic level. So what does it suggest? It suggests that there is a freedom. And what is freedom? It's consciousness at work. Okay. So this is a very interesting principle. I have gone a little beyond just to tell you what Shendra is saying in different words. So,
But Rangada,
yes, tell me.
there may be another power which is affecting the electron, which we are not conscious of.
Okay. Now,
So then there is no freedom.
okay. So if you say that, I refer you back to the Advaita philosophy. There is only Satchidananda and nothing else. There is no another power.
No, according to science, there. I mean, how would you explain that?
Science is not, they can't explain. Science will tell you that the uncertainty principle is definite. That's all.
So up till now, they have not discovered that other power, maybe.
No, they will not also, because there is no other power. For instance, since you are raising another interesting question, Pallavi. So, They are trying to find now the last particle of matter. And the experiment is going on in Switzerland. Okay, under the Alps. Okay, the Alps mountains in Switzerland and partly in France and elsewhere also in maybe in Germany also. Switzerland definitely. They have built a 29-mile tunnel. Okay, to experiment with particles. And now there are many countries doing this research. Okay, to find the, as I say, the God particle. When you go on dividing, which is the last particle, that nothing below that is smaller than that. That's what they're trying to find. Now the question is, will they ever find it? Just as there's an infinity above, there's also an infinity below.
Infinity.
Okay? And there is no, you can never say that this is the smallest particle. You can never say that because it goes on smaller,
Yes.
infinite. So this is the what they're trying to do. They'll never find it. The uncertainty principle. They'll never find it. That's what I'm saying. But they are saying we are trying. Okay, so it's very interesting what I'm saying. In other words, to put it short, the divine is there even in that which seems to be undivine. That's what Sandhya is saying. And that principle is very important for the avatar, because avatar has come down into a limited form. But is his power unlimited? The possibility is there even in the atom, and it's not a possibility, but it's a definite fact in the avatar. That's what he's saying. Okay? It depends on the evolution, to what level you have risen. Okay, so now I read that sentence again. For even in the atom, the cell, there is, as is now made abundantly clear, in spite of itself, by modern science, okay, a power of will. There's a freedom even there at the atomic level, an intelligence at work. Now, in life, you can see that intelligence at work very clearly. Okay, but that power is the power of will and intelligence of the self. It's not power of matter. It's the power of the divine himself, which has come down into matter. Okay. Now, what is the power of will and intelligence? You can see that it becomes instinct in animals and it becomes instinct in plants. Okay. And that is intelligence. Wherever, what is a sign of consciousness? Okay. Can I say that adaptation of means to ends is a sign of consciousness? Can I say that? Just think a little. Huh? Adaptation of means to ends. I want to do something, and whatever I am adapting the means to that. If I can do that, then there is consciousness. For instance, the plant needs water, and it finds water by going down into the earth and looking for it. So can I say there is consciousness? Can I say that a plant, when it is going upwards, it needs light. So if there is a obstruction, it will bypass the obstruction and go. Okay. So is that adaptation of means to ends? Okay. So I can give you 100 examples. Take the marshy lands, okay, what are called mangroves. Okay, salty water, too much salt is a problem for plants. Okay, but nature adjusts itself, and the plants come even in salty water. Okay, now take water is essential for plants. In a desert, can plants grow? Normally not, if you think that water is essential. But what happens? A cactus adapts itself to the amount of moisture that is there in the soil of a desert. So it is adapting itself. So adaptation of means is a sign of consciousness. Okay. Or there is another one, discrimination. Purpose and discrimination is also a sign of consciousness. Okay. If I can distinguish between the two. For instance, in our kidneys, the distinction is made between that which is to be rejected and that which is to be passed on to the blood. Is that not a sign of consciousness? So this is what Chandra is saying. Okay. There is consciousness even in matter. That's what he's saying. So if it is like that, then naturally, even in the body and the vital and the mind of a man, there is power. And that power can become very, very great in an avatar. That's exactly what he's saying. Is it not an interesting question? Come. So we'll go more into it next time, okay? But just think about it. The divine is there even in that which is undivine. That's essentially the point. And therefore, the possibility of avatarhood is definitely certain. Okay? So we'll redo this part. Very interesting discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. Or
Yes,
if you have any
Rangada.
questions, we'll deal with it next time. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Rangada,
Yeah, tell me.
at the present I'm reading an essay of titled Nature by Sherwin,
Ah,
which is a part of that one the small book, one CR of God. In that, he has given exactly what you were saying today.
ah,
The essay is titled Nature.
yeah,
If anyone is interested, CWSA, I think it is in volume.
yeah. It's very interesting question. Okay. My next
Thank
one.
you.
Bravo, Rangada. Merci beaucoup.
Okay.
Thank you, Angada.
Bonne journée.